So I'm going to get my screen shared. You can still see that. Okay, yay, we're live. So good morning, everyone. I'm Chelly Herren with the Highland Group at eXp Realty. And today I'm going to be talking about agent business planning and goal tracking. And this has been an integral part of our business for as long as I've been in my role. And business planning is just so important to help your agents understand where they want to be at the end of the year. And then FollowUpBoss has been such a game changer for us because we've been able to get our team all in on FollowUpBoss, tracking all their activity. And then it makes for a really great business planning opportunity to go into that data and see how their year has gone and then help them formulate their plan for the following year. So I'm going to dig into the tools that we use to manage that process and basically, some of our setup in FollowUpBoss and how we're able to get all that great data so that the agents have a really great handle on the number of contacts that they've made, the number of calls, the number of deals that they've closed, commission, all of that. So just a quick overview on us. The Highland Group, we're in Northern Arizona and Prescott. We're 14 agents right now, one of which is our team leader. He focuses on listings predominantly. We'll have about 350 families served in 2024 for about 200 million in sales volume. High per person productivity is always our goal. So we have a smaller but very high quality group of agents who are all producing at a pretty high standard. We really have focused hard on getting everything into FollowUpBoss, like I said. So that's been something that we've been focused on since 2020. And all of our agents use FollowUpBoss team inbox or FollowUpBoss inboxes and FollowUpBoss numbers. All of our texting, emailing, everything happens through FollowUpBoss. Each of our staff members and ISAs also have FollowUpBoss accounts and do all of their administrative or ISA work through FollowUpBoss. So everything happens in FollowUpBoss, including team ownership, operations. Everybody's in FollowUpBoss 100% of the time. And lead claiming, follow-up, notes, everything goes back to FollowUpBoss. You're definitely probably figuring out there's a theme here. SmartLists dictate our lead follow-up and process and cadence for pretty much every part of our business. So agents are following SmartLists, ISAs are following SmartLists, even down to our admin team, listing team, transaction coordinators. Everybody has SmartLists that help oversee their work. Transaction management occurs through FollowUpBoss. That's all through task checklists and action plans. And so really it's a fabulous collaboration tool because everybody's on the same page. Also, one of the key pieces to this whole goal tracking system and business planning that we just couldn't live without is to keep all of our deals tracked in FollowUpBoss. So we have the ability to see every single one of our deals, what they, what the commission was, what the sales price was, make sure that every deal is tied back to an agent or an ISA or both. And it just gives us a ton of data to go off of when business planning time comes around. Success is the product of daily habits, not a once-in-a-lifetime transformation. So, this is a really cool part of the Atomic Habits book where he talks a lot about that it's the systems that you set up that overall get you to your goals versus the actual goals themselves. So it's really important to have a great foundation in FollowUpBoss so that you have all the tracking in place for your goals. And then you have the ability to measure the activities and monitor the activities and make corrections as needed to achieve those goals that you've set for yourself or that agents have set for themselves. So what is our business planning process? We're usually starting this in as early as October each year. We start talking to agents about how their previous year has gone. We start so early because it's very common in every business, but specifically real estate, to basically take your foot off the gas towards the end of the year. So we start in October so that we can make sure that we're really finishing the year strong and then that we're setting ourselves up for the next year. So goals are business and personal. We always ask people to reflect on their personal lives. Our team lead did an exercise on Monday where we all wrote down 5 things that we feel like we failed at for the year. And that was kind of a weird, tough exercise. But then we, when we were finished with the exercise, we said, okay, that is in the past. Those are all things in the past. We're moving forward. We're looking forward to a new year. Take that piece of paper and tear it up. So that was a really good reminder that there's not much you can do about what has passed or what has happened in a year, but let's look forward to finishing the year strong in a new year. So the tools that we have are designed for reflection. So really want to make sure that people are thinking about, something that they really want to achieve for their family. So a lot of times we'll have people say, they really want to do a big trip, or they're saving for an investment property or down payment for a home. So really want to make sure that we identify what those goals are for people individually. And then all of the reporting and the numbers that we ask them to collect for their year all comes from FollowUpBoss. So we're tracking all of that data in FollowUpBoss, which I'll show in just a minute. And the calls and appointments and everything else that we are asking them to track and then make goals for the following year is tracked in those FollowUpBoss reports. So one of the biggest areas where we spend time when we're in this type of a process is here in the agent activity report. So I personally, I spend a lot of time working with agents on their productivity and their goals and how to get more productive. And the agent activity report, when it's set up properly, is just an incredible game changer for keeping track of where agents are at. So these are the columns that I recommend that you focus on. And there's others that you can turn on or off, but I would say that these are some of the most important. What I don't have here is probably emails and texts, and that's a really big metric for us as well. So you could add that when you click on this columns button here. And the number of new leads that someone's been working, the number of calls they've made, how fast they're getting to their leads, their average number of contact attempts to those leads, meaning calls, texts, and emails. So how many times are they trying those people? We like to see this number over 20 per agent. And the agents who have the highest number of contact attempts on our team, average contact attempts, always have the highest number of closed deals. It's an absolute success metric that I can tie contact attempts back to agent productivity. Any leads not acted on, not called, not emailed, not texted. You can also track in here response rate. So how many people are responding to their messages. It's a really pretty much a game changer. In this particular case, this would be an agent that hasn't closed any deals yet, so they don't have any deal value. Normally that would show 450,000 or whatever their closings were. We keep track and FollowUpBoss of what the agent has paid. So this becomes a really great report for keeping track of how close they are to their financial goals. And then there's conversion rate calculations. Again, you can turn columns on and off here. So this is a really powerful report as far as how many people are responding to their messages, or how many, there's lots of different metrics here that can be measured. I think we have somebody joining the call. Hi, Chuck.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. I'm sorry. I'm running a few minutes late from another meeting.
Oh, you're fine. I was just recording my session away, but I will go back and cover a couple of things for you because I just gave kind of a quick overview. We're talking today about agent business planning and goal setting. And so I'll just give you a quick overview of me and who I am and what the session is about. So I'm the COO for the Highland Group in Prescott, Arizona, and we are 14 agents and do about 350 transactions this year. which is about 200 million in our market. Our goal is always high per person productivity. And so I'm going to talk today about our agent goal setting process and what we track in FollowUpBoss in order to have a really high quality business planning session with each one of our agents, both as a group and then we do one-on-ones.
Okay.
So I had covered previous to you getting here. So I'll just do a quick overview. What is measured is improved. So we track a ton of information in FollowUpBoss. All of our agents are in FollowUpBoss 100% of the time. All of our staff is in FollowUpBoss 100% of the time. Transaction coordination occurs in FollowUpBoss. Lead claiming, follow-up notes, app mentions, everything is in FollowUpBoss. And if it didn't happen in FollowUpBoss, it didn't happen. That's what we tell our agents all the time. Smart lists dictate a lot of our lead follow-up, our ISA follow-up, even our staff uses smart lists to, keep track of what leads are in what stage of our business or what clients are in what areas of our pipeline.
Okay.
Our ISA team and staff work in FollowUpBoss, I said that, and then our deals are tracked in FollowUpBoss. So how we get some really incredible data for our agents is through tracking FollowUpBoss deals and making sure that we have commission income that pertains to the agent in each of the deals. And that I'll talk about in a minute, but that becomes a really critical tool for us to be able to use FollowUpBoss as a sales management system. We use a separate accounting system for our actual accounting, but I'll show you how this tool just becomes really critical for the business planning process. So leveraging business planning into our team's activities. So I had covered that we really like to start this activity in October, and that helps us to remind agents that picking their foot off the gas for the end of the year is not the best practice. So it's really kind of a 15-month business planning process that we do. So we're asking them to check in on their goals for the end of the year, see how close they are to hitting those goals for the year and what they're going to do to make sure that they end the year strong, and then also set their goals for the next year. So we have some different business planning documents that we give out depending on the year, but specifically we try to ask them to rate themselves, ask them to talk about what sacrifices they had to make to attain their goals that year, what all of their different numbers are. The numbers are all coming from the agent activity report, which is what I was just covering when you joined.
Okay.
So the agent activity report is a place that I really live for a lot of my week. And I have this report set up by modifying these columns here. And this allows me to see for a certain time period and a certain agent what leads they've claimed, how many calls they've made, what their average speed to action is, like how quickly they're getting to those leads that we assign to them, what their average contact attempts are. So I had mentioned that average contact attempts is going to count calls, texts, and emails. And I can correlate average contact attempts to success on our team very accurately. So if someone is new to our team, I'm expecting to see a number like this person in this time period closed 0 deals and has 0 value. So they're still in a building phase. But the people who are the highest producers or even just hitting our minimum standard are going to have average contact attempts into the 20s. And that's what I'm always looking to see, is that they have, a manageable number of leads and they're able to contact them at a high enough rate that industry standard would tell us that that's about 23 contact attempts per lead that it takes to get them to convert. And that's across the board. That was a metric that John Sheplack shared at the FollowUpBoss conference a couple of years ago. So that's a great metric. We also really focus now a little bit more on the 2-minute conversation under the calls report, but I'll go into that in a minute. But I'm always watching these contact attempts because, especially if someone's been on our team for a long time and their contact attempts are low, I know that that means that they're working too many leads or not putting in enough effort in communication. leads not emailed, texted. There's a whole bunch of different things you can turn on or off in this column. Some of the ones I don't have turned on here that I really like is like response rate to calls, texts, and emails. That's like a really great metric, I think, to measure with agents, because that gives you an idea of what the quality of those communications are, how many people are responding to them, to their efforts. So if I'm seeing that that's a really low number, I would also dig in with them about like, how are you, show me your text templates, show me your email templates. Let's go to a record where you feel like you really have been communicating well with someone, and let's look at it together. Deals closed are all tracked through the deals reporting. So we attach an agent to each of the deals that they bring in. The deal value comes from the sales volume, and deal commission is what the agent earns on our team. So again, we have a separate accounting system to keep everything running, but our deal commission just is what the agent earns. And that allows me to have some really great data on how that person is doing accomplishing their goal. Conversion rate.
So if I can just jump back, you said so in that deals tab, you don't split it out in that split section.
So we do. It's a little bit, I'll have to play around with it because there's a couple different fields that populate different reports. And I believe that the agent split does populate this report. There's a couple of places where the actual commission amount, which is like, I'll go to the deals section in just a second and we can look at this together. But there's like, if you look at a deal card, there's a left-hand commission field and then there's the splits field. And one of those fields, like the left-hand commission, populates one report and the splits populates another report. So when we finish, I'll go in and get that answer for you. Okay. But we don't, this is not for us like a team track record tool. FollowUpBoss deals for us is very agent focused in the sense that when I want to pull financials on our team's profitability, I'm going somewhere else. Unfortunately, I mean, it would be fantastic if it would be all in one, but I just can't get enough tracking detail here quite yet.
Right.
But from an agent management and sales management tool, it's incredible to keep, all the agents' data in here, because then I have at my fingertips reports to see how close they are to their goal, how to correlate their income back to their activities. It's really a game changer. So let's go back on commissions in just a moment.
Okay.
So here's the deals report. This is in FollowUpBoss, and this is populated by the deal cards. And so this just, when we finish business planning with our team, we go in and talk, type in whatever their income goal is. And then the deals and the commissions that they earn are tracked against the goal reached. And so, for instance, this agent had all these different closings and their commissions totaled $100,000. So they hit their goal. And then it gives me like a little synopsis on the top about how many appointments they had and unique conversations and currently assigned leads and sales volume. So like a lot of basics are here on the goals report. I wish it tracked the number of transactions that they wanted to close and like their goal for that, because we're much more focused on the number of transactions versus the sales volume. If an agent does 4 deals at 4 million, they're going to hit a different sales volume than somebody who's doing 18 deals.
I'll be back this afternoon.
Personal goals go in here, and those are usually personal and business. So it would be like this person wanted to do 2 transactions a month, take 20 new leads a month, make 30 calls a day, and save for an investment property. So all that can be tracked, and then it can also be updated. So we've already sat down with our agents this year and filled out all of their 2025 goals reports with their goals. So whenever I'm having their accountability meeting, I can go back to their goals. I'm not talking about what our team's goal is for them or to some degree, I'm talking about our team's standards, but I'm talking about the agent's goals. The call report is what I was referring to earlier, which is a metric that we're really tracking at a high level now. And that keeps track of how many calls they made and then how many connections they made, which is just someone who's picking up the phone. And for a long time, like we're a Mike Ferry trained sales team, and we would just count contacts. That was like a good metric for us, which to some degree we still do that because it's easy for the agents to just make hash marks as they're making calls. Like, did I have a two-way conversation with a decision-making adult? We count emails and texts as well. So if you have a two-way conversation going back and forth, that counts as a contact. But the number of conversations that we're really focused on right now is a metric that a lot of teams across the country is tracking, because that means that the conversation didn't just have like a hello, my name is so-and-so, I'm calling from this company,
Right.
I'm not interested in real estate. It's actually going to that 2-minute conversation, and it's
Got
going
it.
deeper, and the agent has to be more skilled to get that conversation through a couple layers and
Right.
a few objections to keep that conversation at 2 minutes. And ideally they set an appointment. Doesn't always happen, but shooting for 10 conversations per day for someone who's in a building or growth phase is what we're very focused on right now.
Can I ask, in regards to the opportunities that are coming in, the leads that are coming into the system, you put all your leads into a pond then, and then the agents have to go in there. They're not round robin to everybody?
Correct. Yeah, we used to do round robin, but what I was finding is that people then, somebody was out of town for 3 days and the lead would just sit in their inbox and not get worked for 3 days. So we switched to a pond setting a few years ago, and that's much more efficient in the sense of agents can receive text messages when a new lead gets added to the pond if they wish to. And they can also dial through the pond. So I have some agents who will claim leads right from the text messages that they receive. And they can just click on the link in the message and then go to the lead and claim it. We have some agents who dial through the pond and pick up new leads that way. Some agents do kind of a mixture of both of those. And then we also have something called opportunity time, which is where our sign calls and some of the more like live, a lot more of the live phone calls come in. And you can set a 5-hour shift on opportunity time, 4-hour shift on opportunity time. Sometimes receive a lot of calls and sometimes receive just, no calls, but it's our agents' time to like really focus on their business. They sign up for those shifts. If they're unavailable, if no one signs up, our ISAs take over, and it's all managed through a FollowUpBoss inbox.
So in regards to when you said that they receive a text, they can claim the lead, do you have an action plan that if, okay, yeah, I could sit there and say, okay, I'm claiming the lead, but then I haven't done anything with it. Do you have an action plan that pulls it back into the pond then? Like what do you do there? That's where I kind of struggle here.
Yeah.
So I right now do a round robin. And
Okay.
I've kind of pulled back on some of this stuff as I'm trying to restructure a better process.
Yes, exactly. So great question. So how many agents do you have?
There's a total of 5 of us right now, and we're actually starting a recruiting piece right now to get people who are a little bit more hungry.
Nice.
So if you use the disc profile testing, most of my people are S&Cs, which is not very helpful in this environment of the business.
Right.
So I'm trying to get them a little bit more balanced, people who are a little bit more aggressive in that aspect. So I want to make sure that my pieces are set up for managing better.
Yes, exactly.
It's been a long learning road.
Yes. And it takes kind of all profiles, but I completely agree with you that S&Cs are more cautious and more, so they move at a slower pace. I have my 3 top salespeople on our team. 2 are amiable, and then 1 is kind of a mixture. He's a strange mix of like driver and analytical. But yeah, so anyway, it takes all kinds. So
Right.
good for you for growing and recognizing that. So great question on the ponds. So when the lead, so the way that we have it set up that has worked the best is we actually created a user in FollowUpBoss that is our team lead, but we call it team lead 2.0. Like, it's not really him. It's an info ad or a hello email address. And there's a team inbox associated with it. So essentially what happens is a new lead comes into our pond, and that person is the owner of the pond. So it's like a version of our team lead, but not actually his personal email address. And that person starts the action plan. So, a quick text goes out from like our company number and one of Elena Key's, the KTS Technologies action plan starts on the lead itself. And so that's going off from that person who is named Jeff. And then when an agent claims that lead, that action plan continues. It's just that that comes from the agent who claims the lead. If no one claims the lead, then the drip campaign still keeps going and the agent and the client just stays in the pond. But the good news is they're continuing to get the drips. So there's like, you know, things slip through the cracks. They're still getting something. It's just not a phone call, which is preferable, obviously. And then what has been critical to this whole process for us is making sure that we have an ISA, and our ISA is really the backstop. So let's say that a lead comes in, nobody claims it. It's 10 o'clock on a Friday night. Nobody looks at FollowUpBoss on the weekend, or nobody dials through the pond, or whatever happens. We have the backstop of an ISA whose job is to make sure that any of those new leads are called every single day. So, and then when that ISA converts the lead and they hand it off to the agent group, that ISA earns a fee, like a commission usually if they're licensed. And the agents know that the ISA is like their assistant. If they can't get to a lead, they know that the ISA will, and the ISA will nurture the lead until they hand it off. But when they hand it off, they have to pay commission to the ISA for doing that work. So our agents still have the same opportunities as the ISA, but when they decide to take that opportunity, they then are able to, you know, leverage their business a bit more by having an additional lead that they didn't have to work as hard. I mean, handoffs from an ISA doesn't mean they're an instant deal, obviously, but a lot of the initial work, heavy lifting, can be started for them. So that's the basic framework of how the leads get assigned. And I forget, you had one pointed question outside of what I just described.
So that's okay. So when they claim that lead, and let's say, for example, they pay that ISA, as you said, their commission. Now it falls into my lap, so to speak, but now I don't do anything with it.
Right.
Is there anything that pulls it back to the pond that this person doesn't get left in limbo land?
Yes. So that's a smart list system that we use. So when the lead comes in, all of our smart lists are based off of lead stage. So when the lead comes in and it gets assigned to Chuck, and Chuck doesn't call, or Chuck doesn't make enough calls in the first few days, then I have some Zapier automations that will take it back to the pond. So the agent has 3 days to make 6 phone calls, and then it goes back to the pond if they haven't done that. And then if they have done that, but then we get to day 4, that lead, if not staged yet, stays on just a calling list. So it's a daily calling list. So then they're switching to like where they were doing 2 or 3 calls a day in the first 3 days. Then they switch to once a day calls. So they're going to get that list to 0 every single day. And that means all the leads that they haven't staged are receiving a phone call once a day. So if that list has people in it that have been there for, I do 21 days total, then at the 22nd day, when that lead is still there, still doesn't have a stage, we don't know if they're hot, warm, or cold, we don't know what they need, that will go back to the pond. So they essentially have 3 weeks to try to figure out what the lead needs, and then it goes back to the pond. I used to do those sweeps manually, but I have automated that through Zapier now.
Okay.
And those are the only 2 lists that I'm currently sweeping. The way I manage the other leads that I've handed out, once they're staged, is I have a VA that goes in every twice a week, at the end of the week and the beginning of the next week. And she tells me, like, okay, this person has more than 20 people on these 3 lists. So they have hot, warm, and cold, and then past client lists. And if they have more than 20 people on those lists, then she pauses them on the leads pond, basically just takes them off, deletes them from the pond, and it sends them a message that says, hey, you have more than 20 leads that you need to follow up with. Please let us know when you get caught up. So it's a break. They get like reprieve, right? Like, I'm not going to distract you with new leads until you get your job done. So as soon as their 20 leads or as soon as their calls are brought back down under 20, because the reality of the situation is new people pop on all the time to the list because, for instance, the A list is call every week and the B list is every 2 weeks and the C list is every month. And it's, it can't be perfect at 0 all the time. So the 20 number has become like our threshold.
Okay.
So then they get taken off leads and then it's their responsibility to say, hey, I got caught up, put me back on leads.
Okay. Got it. Okay.
So that's the basic framework, and that requires some maintenance and some setup. But what I will tell you is that our conversion rates completely drastically changed and went up. And we were able to convert our team off of a lot of the platform sources to more of the lower cost Google, pay-per-click, and those sources. That those leads require a lot more follow-up. But because we had that system in place that they knew how to follow, and we were asking them to commit to a couple hours a day of lead follow-up and calling, it was definitely a change for the agents. But if you're going to hire a whole bunch of new people, what happens is that the new people get trained this way. And the old people go, well, how's Susie closing all these deals? Well, she's following the system.
Right.
Oh, well, I didn't want to follow the system before because I thought I didn't need it, but now I want to learn what it's all about.
Right.
So it's one of those things that adoption can be slow, but not with new people if you expect that when you hire them.
Correct. And you said Elena helped you set up all your smart lists and stuff like that.
I used her basic setup as the beginnings of our FollowUpBoss, yes. And then I made some tweaks to it over time, just
as you learned it.
As I learned and as I figured out that we needed to figure out how to get leads called. I mean, her setup is fantastic. Don't get me wrong.
Right. I'm not doubting that at all. I'm just trying to get some basis here as I'm trying to update my stuff here.
Yeah. Well,
and you said you're using Google as a lead source, Google PPC, and so are you using YLopo or any of those sources?
So we do, but we have our own pay-per-click vendor who pushes leads to our YLopo site.
Got it.
And we just really we went all in on getting off of every platform lead that had any type of referral a couple of years ago, and getting off of Zillow and all of those lead sources. And so I've spent a ton of time and energy on really tweaking that. So one of our campaigns is pointed to our YLopo site, and it does really, really well. And I wouldn't say that YLopo doesn't do a great job of pay-per-click. I just wanted to get extremely granular, and that was not something I didn't have access to the ads that they were generating. So.
Yeah, that was my biggest complaint with it. I have it in the background just from the agent tools. I haven't been using their site on that way. We're using a marketing company try to help us with some of that other stuff. So,
nice.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'd be happy to do a call with you sometime, Chuck, if you get if you've worked with Elena and get some of the basics set up. I'm not a good person to do the basics, but once you get the basic foundation in place, if you already have it and you're trying to figure out how to tweak your leads, we could do a couple calls and I could show you how to do some things.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah,
awesome.
I'll read through a couple of other things. We love appointment reporting in FollowUpBoss.
Okay.
That allows us we ask our agents to put all their appointments in FollowUpBoss. When you start using the leaderboard and showing them the leaderboard, they get more points for appointments. And so
let me interrupt that one thought process. Appointment being the first time I'm meeting with a lead or every time they're showing a house?
We're pretty lenient with appointments in the sense of they can record any appointment they have with the client. It has to be with the client. It can't be an appointment to follow up with them or an appointment to call them, because we need the accountability of them sending it to the client. Mm-hmm. And then it can be anything from a phone consultation to a follow-up on the listings that they receive, but it has to be a set appointment. It can't just be I'm going to call you on Tuesday. It's I'm going to call you on Tuesday at 10.
Okay.
And then home showing, we really allow them to track whatever. I go off of the old school way of thinking that every appointment leads to a closed deal. And so if you think about it, you might need 10 appointments.
Right.
be in the beginning to get a lead under contract. And then during contract, you need to meet them 10 times at the house. So I allow for a very lenient tracking of appointments because to me, that's all pushing towards a deal. But if all the agents are tracking all those appointments, it becomes fair. You know what I mean? Like our leaderboard might show that somebody has 20 appointments for the week. And that's because between meeting with new buyers and current buyers and a few sellers, they've actually gone on 20 appointments, either on the phone or in person.
Okay. Cool.
Our ISAs don't get to have that leniency. Our ISAs just track the appointment that they set for an agent on the initial contact. That's the only one that they track. So then when you get all of that activity in FollowUpBoss, we'll go and sort to the last year for the agents that we have who have been on the team with us for a full year. And we will like pull this whole report that shows that like they claimed 20% more new leads. They increased their call 250%. So that's like, you can really show them some really, and I'll do this on a monthly basis. I'll do it on a weekly basis, a 90-day basis when I'm meeting with them throughout the year. But then at the end of the year, I'll show them all their numbers. And, you know, how many texts they sent, notes, tasks completed, appointment set. Appointment set means the ones that you actually add to FollowUpBoss. The appointments could just be anything off of their calendar that they're invited to from the team. So appointments isn't a very good metric for anything. I just like to point that out because the ones that they've actually set with clients are what we like to track, which is set.
Okay.
And average speed to action, contact attempts. Again, this person is, you know, a high contact attempter, and they're in our like upper echelon of production as an agent. So there's a direct correlation between those two.
Got it.
Then I'll do some math with them on like, okay, so they did all these calls, all these appointments. So then they had 117 leads, and most of our agents, we encourage them to make sure they have at least a week of time off per quarter. So sometimes for them, that's days, you know, a day here, a day there. And then sometimes people work best if they work a 5 or 6 day week and then take a week long vacation, however they do that. But we really want to encourage them not to burn out. And so we'll take a 48-week year, whatever they say. I mean, if somebody wants to plan to take a month off or whatever it is, I mean, we just say like, you know, we want to help you encourage you to get to your goals. So then
Do you do this? Am I seeing that how often are you sharing this with them again?
well, for years in our sort of like building phase, I was meeting with them on a weekly or bi-weekly cadence, depending on how they were hitting their goals. So
Okay.
I would actually go through this agent goals report with them. It was a Zoom. It was 15 minutes. We're now kind of changing up the cadence on that a little bit, but for the most part, like I'll tell you that I want to get back to it because it works, and we got away from it for some unknown reason. And I think that our year could have been better if we would have kept that activity up. It was something that I went to a management retreat really in my position in this role with our team like 4 years ago. And that was suggested, and it was a huge needle mover for us.
Okay.
So it takes time, you know, but if you are efficient at it, you can block off like 2 hours on your calendar once a week. And then you ask the agents to come on Zoom in 15-minute increments, and you're going through the numbers with them and doing some of this math, but on a smaller scale. So you can say to them, like, let's go to the last 90 days and see how many calls you've made, how many appointments you booked, how many deals you closed, and then you can get some math going with them as to like what activities and efforts it took to get to where they are.
Okay.
So this was an annual overview. So the 117 leads they claimed worked out to 2.43 leads a week. So about 2.5 leads per week. They did 3,252 calls and closed 44 deals. So that was 73 calls per deal. I think this was one of my agents who isn't the best about working in FollowUpBoss. So that's going to be low for the agents that I have that are working in FollowUpBoss every day, but this person has pretty established business. but you get the point. So then you'll take that 48 weeks and multiply it times a 5-day work week. And that's how you get 240 working days. So if they're working 240 working days and they make 3,252 calls, that's 13 calls a day. Again, I'm going to say that's low because really I want them to make like 10 contacts a day, and they'd have to make a lot more calls than that to get enough people to pick up the phone to get to that contact number. But you can pull all these metrics and then you'll start to see patterns. Like if an agent is telling you, like I start the conversation usually, hey, how's your business going? How do you feel about how things are going? It seems really slow. Okay, great. Let's dig into your report. And then I'll just start doing this math and I'll be like, you know, you can do these like little comparison tools right here. So if you did 90 days and you did the comparison tool for previous period, you could see what their previous 90 days was. And let's say they closed 5 deals in the previous period. In this period, they closed 2. You can correlate the numbers back and forth.
Right.
And you'll develop some patterns that you can coach them on. I mean, it's a really simple conversation once you can see the numbers and they can see the numbers on the screen at the same time. So 134 appointments, 44 deals. So they need 3 appointments per deal. That's what their track record shows. And then 134 appointments divided by 48 weeks worked. That's just about 3 appointments a week. Contact attempts went up 32% to an average of 29. That didn't unfortunately correlate to more deals for this person, but usually it does. But this person, like when you ask them that question, like, you know, you're contacting a lot more people, a lot more frequently. Great job. Why do you think you closed those deals? Oh, well, you know, I had 4 cancel the last 2 months. They'll always tell you. They have a really good sense as to why like their production is off or changed.
Right.
And then if you see here, this conversion rate is down 20%. That's usually pretty consistent. Sorry, down 60%. A conversion rate going down with somebody who's claiming and working a lot more leads is pretty common. Because if they're taking on more leads to work, then and their contact attempts is okay, if it's good, then I'm happy with the fact that they took on more leads. If I see that their contact attempts has gone down and they've taken on more leads, then they have too many leads.
Right.
And you have to have like a 90-day sample set to see this. You can't do it over like a week, right? You have to have a good amount of time. But then if their deals closed has also gone down, then that results in the lower conversion rate. But you can work off of their conversion rates to also get to some of their deals numbers. So, you know, I'll ask them why they think their conversion rate went down, but I'm just giving you the background on the math.
Right.
So, when I'm going through this whole process with them, if you go back to those business forms, they're filling in like how many deals did they do, how many listings, how many transactions. And then they're making notes on, okay, well, last year I was calling an average, I was taking it on an average of 2.5 leads a week. And I was making 73 calls a deal. Like, I know that I want to do, my goal jump to 60 because my family has stronger financial needs and I really want to get to 60 this year. We can work the math backwards on what they're going to need to do based on their previous year's numbers. And obviously there's market adjustments and things like this that fall into this. But then once they commit to those goals, I can go back to the goal report and record things here. And then we can go I don't like adjust every week, but let's say that we get to a quarter and we look back, we would get to the end of first quarter and we look back at their numbers and we see that like they're not hitting those goals and it's unattainable for them to get that number of contacts every week and they're failing at it every week.
Right.
We would readjust the goals, or I would like have an accountability conversation with them. Like, well, how bad do you want to save for that down payment for the investment property? Like you told me that was your goal at the beginning of the year. So has that goal changed? Well, no, we still like really want the investment property. And then we, I asked them to recommit to the goal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really like what I'm hearing and seeing on this reporting. I think I can see it being very advantageous. I just need to put myself in that role and doing that.
Yeah. Are you tracking deals already?
We do track deals. Yeah. I'm not very good at this reporting aspect. I have to really get out on the outside and look at the business versus being inside of it.
Right. Yeah.
And that's something we have Maverick, which I'm getting rid of. I'm not sure if you use the Maverick tool.
It's so funny you say that because I was just looking at it last night thinking, do I need this again? I use Octa, which was the first version of it. And it seems like a really great tool, but then it's also a lot of information that
when I was at FubCon 23, it seemed like it would be a really good, valuable tool, but my agents aren't making these calls. So the nudging doesn't align with what my filters are in my smart list.
Oh, got it.
That's it. So that's another piece of, for me, I mean, it's nice at the fact that they have to respond to what the appointment is. It's nice to know like what's the best time of calling, but I think right now it's just money for me in the smallness of my business that I don't need to be spending. I need to learn to use this basic and get this honed in better, and then maybe move back into that Maverick piece. I do think there's value to it. Don't get me wrong. I
mean, everything you said just makes total sense. And I agree with you that, like, I mean, just so you are clear, the success that we've had on our team for the last, since 2020, when I stepped out of sales into this role, has been 100% managed by FollowUpBoss and reporting. So is it like the perfect reporting, and does it have every single metric that the Maverick, I just reviewed the Maverick report last night and was like, okay, there's some pretty cool stuff on here that I'm not tracking. So it's not incredible, it's comprehensive, but because of this really basic tool that you just saw me demonstrate, I think that it's like a really strong foundation to start on, because if you measure the agent's activities, they're either going to improve or they're going to stay the same, or they're going to, not like the measurement and go away. And if you really think about it from a team lead standpoint, that's, especially if you're generating leads that you're paying for, if you're not measuring that, then you're just throwing money in the wind.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it. And so it's good to hear. It's good to see what I'm seeing here. If I can hone on these basics, I think we can get a lot further versus this other outside platform also in there.
Yeah, and I think maybe it's just take a little break until you get some basics down, because when you get back to that reporting, then you'll have like a lot of uses for it, I think. The key is with that is that when I was using the predecessor, Optum, I had to incorporate it into my meetings with the agents. And like that was a really useful tool, because then we could go through these basic numbers and then we could go one step further and give them a little bit more insights.
Right. Cool. Well, this is helpful.
Good. Well, thanks so much for joining. And there's some downloads of some of the basic tools that is on my website. And if you want to just take that domain down, there's some of the basics there. And then if you wanted to schedule a call at some time in the future, you could, we could talk more about your lead system.
Okay, cool. Hey, thank you so much, Chelly. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you, Tech. We'll talk soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.